Hello, I'm Letty Fendenay, and welcome to the session of Classroom Organizing Made Easy. We have a lot of things that we're going to get through today, so I'm just going to jump right in. Um, when I was a kid, just to kind of give you an introduction of me and what I'm doing. So when I was a kid, when I would overnight at my friends' houses, I would be the one that would organize their rooms for them. And my friends would be like, "That's what you want to do right now?" And I'm like, "Yes." And their moms loved me, you can imagine. So then when in 2006, I was a stay-at-home mom and I decided, hey, I think I'm going to start this organizing company. And it was because I had friends that I had been helping them with like moving or just organizing a closet that was really bugging them. And they were like, you should do this as a business. And I was like, you can organize as a business? And so, anyway, that's kind of how I got started. So I've been doing this for almost 20 years. Currently, because I'm teaching full time, I'm not able to go out and do as much organizing as I would like. So I now have 5 team members on my team, organized by Letty, and they go out for me and help my clients, accomplish their goals. So that's kind of what, you know, Organized by Letty is all about, how I got started, a little bit about me. I'm currently a preschool teacher at Maranatha Christian Academy, and so I'm just going to be sharing some of my classroom organizing tips that have worked for me. And hopefully, there'll be some things in here that will inspire you and motivate you in areas that you're struggling in your classroom. So, why is organizing your classroom important? Um, when we're feeling chaotic, it's hard to focus and to prepare and get things ready. It's easier when you can find all the things that you need to prepare and plan. I know then also what I have and what I don't have. And so I'm not having to like plan a lesson wishing I had something. And then later, as I'm digging in a cabinet for something else, I find it. And then I am like, oh my goodness, I had this the whole time. Or I go buy something that I don't really need. It helps me to not lose things or misplace important things. And it's also easier, like if you have a shared classroom space, we all have subs coming in, but I have, several people that come in and out of my room to help me throughout the day. And it's so much easier when I have a place for everything. They know where to find it, and there's a system and a flow to the day. So, some basic steps for any organizing project is number one, you need to have a goal. Why are you doing the organizing project? Is it because it's a mess and you're sick of looking at it? Well, that's surely a goal. Is it because you keep misplacing things that you're looking for? You're trying to set up your classroom for various learning activities and it's becoming a struggle. You just have too much stuff. You can't close your cabinet. Those are all the types of goals that I'm talking about. And the reason that setting those goals is important is because then it drives the decision making. So then when you're pulling everything out of your cupboards and you're feeling overwhelmed and you can't make a decision, you can go back to your goal and say, okay, remember, your goal is that you want to be able to close this cupboard and not have everything falling out every time you open it. So what am I going to get rid of? What am I moving somewhere else? What am I not using right now? So that's why the goal is important. Along with this link, you should have received a link for my handout. And in my handout, it walks you through a goal setting process. So make sure you check that out. Um, so let's see here. What didn't I talk about that? So anyways, you can set yourself up for success by creating accountability. So you're probably thinking, great, I've set a goal, but now how do I get there? So once you set the goal, then it's important to, like, some people will share their before pictures on Facebook or whatever and be like, hey, I'm diving into this project, cheer me on, and I'm hoping to show it to you by the end of today or the end of this week. And that's a great way to set yourself up for accountability because now there's people going, hey, I want to see your end result. Another way that you can set up some accountability is doing it with another person. So maybe you set a date with, your husband, a friend, whether it's in school or out of school, to come and work on a project so that you get it done. And so sometimes it's hard in the midst of everything to go, I'm going to set aside time to work on that project when there's so many other things that need our attention as well. So that's just something that can help you drive the project. Okay, so you set your goal, you got your accountability partner, and then the next thing you need to do is you need to take a before picture, because who doesn't love a good before and after picture? And then after you do that, then comes the fun part, pulling everything out. That's my favorite part of every organizing job, is just getting in there. People will share pictures of me of their like absolute disaster of a mess of a cabinet or a room. And I like get excited because I'm like, I want to get in there and pull it all out. And then you're not just pulling it out, but as you're pulling it out, you're going to categorize it. So some categories that you might create in your room would be like math, language arts, science, social studies. Those are some kind of easy categories. Also, you can categorize like your toys for the early ed classrooms by like building blocks, dramatic play, fine motor, and things like that. And then that way you can see how much of things that you have. And if you have like 20 bins of blocks, maybe you need to consider downsizing some of those. And then you're like, oh, I only have 2 things that's increasing their fine motors, which all of that stuff is fine motor, but maybe there's more things that you want to do. And now you can make room to employ some of those new toys into your room. So another way that you could categorize is like, these things are teacher choice, like I'm choosing them to put them out for you to do because it's a learning activity, or they're toys that the kids can choose on their own to pull out and use. So those are just some categories that might help you. So containers. Don't buy, if you can help it, don't buy your containers before you start your organizing project. Because what can happen is you realize, oh, I bought all these containers, it doesn't really fit the stuff that I have. So my recommendation would be is to measure the space. So we have these really deep cabinets in our classrooms, and so I don't want to lose any of that space. Now, I'll show you later kind of how I've set up my cupboards, but so that's important. Knowing your space, maybe you need to move some shelves. That's something I always forget about, is to moving shelves can make such a difference in how you store things. So once you've measured, and then knowing like, okay, is this a collection that's gonna grow, or is this a collection that this is it, this is all I'm gonna have? So making sure that you have room for growth if it's something where the collection might get bigger over time. If that's like, this is the limit to my collection, okay, good, then this is the size bin that needs. Is it easy to use? You don't want to get into these complicated organizing systems where everything is organized by color, everything is organized by like itty bitty little organizing things, which I love, and I know it's fun and it's aesthetically pleasing, but it's not always easy for the kids to use. It's not always easy to maintain, especially when you have multiple people that might be using your classroom. Okay, so let's see. And then when you're all done sorting your categories, you put everything in its containers, you put it on the shelf, and then you need to label, label, label. And then a step that is so important that I've added over the years is to bring people in and tour them of the organizing project. So if I'm at home and I just did my pantry, I show my husband and kids, hey, this is where everything is gonna go. So just like that in your classroom, you would show your classroom assistant or any other people that like after school care people that might be using the toys in your space, just to kind of show them your system so that they know what to do and where things should go. So that has been a helpful tip for a lot of my clients over the years and for myself. Okay, so on that note, I want to talk about how organizing is a journey and it is not a destination. And I know we would all love to think, oh, I'm organizing all this stuff and it's going to stay that way and it's going to be perfect. But the reality of the situation is that sometimes we pick something like a certain type of a bin or where we're placing things, it just doesn't make sense. It's not working. So then you kind of need to fine tune those things. Also, things change. You get a new curriculum, you get new students, you get new people in your room, maybe they have good ideas. And so be open to making those changes because it can be really rewarding, and you'll find that it's easier to keep track of things and work your space when you're more flexible and you're willing to kind of change those things. And just so you know, I'm preaching to the choir here because I have a tendency to want to be like, nope, I went through all the work, I did that, it's staying, we're not changing it. But we need to be open to being flexible with organizing. It is a journey, not a destination. Okay, so the other thing that I want you to think about is that we're looking for good over perfect. And I think a lot of us as teachers, we're type A personalities, sometimes we're perfectionists, and we need to try to lay that aside. So this is a big reason why I became an organizer and became good at it, because I was a perfectionist. And sometimes it would stop me from doing things altogether because I was like, well, if I can't get it that certain way that I'm already envisioning in my head, then I'm not even going to start. And I have a good friend, Colette Wynn. She actually teaches at school with me, and might even be in your session. And she, when I first started working with her, she was like, Letty, just let that go. Let's go. It's the end of the day. And she really taught me to kind of let some of those things go. And so good over perfect, done over perfect. So keep that in mind. And also don't let that Instagram worthy pictures and aesthetics stop you from doing stuff in your classroom. Take those first steps, go with those ideas that you have, whether it's moving your classroom around or taking things out of that one cabinet and making it better. Don't be afraid to do that. Okay, I want to go back to labeling because sometimes we make labeling complicated. Like we feel like we have to have a label maker and it has to be fancy and we got to do all these fancy fonts. No, you don't. Remember, good over perfect. So these are one of my favorite types of bins from Target. You can just take a Sharpie and write on it, and then if you need to change it, you just take a Mr. Clean Magic Eraser, and that takes the lettering off, and now you can rewrite a new label on there. Any clear plastic bins you should be able to do this with. Another thing that you can do is just put a piece of tape, whether it's masking tape or duct tape on here, and write the name of whatever's in there, and then take it off when you need to change it. Label makers are great, and you can do that as well. But I also find that label making can take time because you have to punch in all the titles and then print it out, take the backing off, stick it on. So sometimes it might just be easier to start with writing the names on, and then you can go back and do label making or have someone do that step for you. So I wanted to share that with you. And then, like I talked about, giving a tour is so important. And then taking those after pictures and then looking at them and sharing them with a friend. Hey, check out what I did in my room. And I would love to see your pictures. So if you want to share your pictures with me, you can email me at organizedbyletty.com, at gmail.com. Sorry, organizedbyletty@gmail.com. I would love to see what you're doing if you would like to share it with someone. Okay, so I took a poll to find out what teachers wanted to know about organizing in their classrooms. And so one of the biggest things that came up was papers. And I would have to attest that I think that that's something we get a lot of papers that come into a classroom. What do we do with them? And so one thing that I've been trying to do better about is with, there's a lot of stuff that's accessible digitally. And so I'm trying to go, I don't need this hard copy. I have it digitally. And that's not really my MO. I kind of like going to my paper files and things like that, but I'm trying to go, okay, this isn't something that I need to file or keep. I can just look for it digitally. So I want to encourage you to kind of try to think about, do I need this hard copy or can I just access this digitally? The other thing is having an action file for things that you need to access daily or weekly. So for example, our allergy list. I need that handy so that when people step into my room, they can look for it. Also, if I need to double check anything, so I have that behind a cupboard door. I have it taped up in there. Also, like my phone list when I need to call like the nurse or IT. I like to have this handy, so you can put these things in a slide-in sheet, and then I cut off the little tabs that you would put it in a 3-ring binder, and I have that hanging in my desk underneath my phone. Another thing that you can do is have a action file. You can either just have these open with the papers that you need handy, or you can put files in here. Maybe you need one for your to-do list. Maybe you need one for behaviors or whatever. So the only things that papers that should be on your desk and in your visual space are things that you're accessing in case of an emergency, daily or weekly. Anything else needs to be filed away and out of your headspace. So I will get into what to do with things that you need to be filed. So granted, you might have a spot on your desk where you keep things to be filed. My recommendation would be not to keep a spot for things to be filed, because what happens is that can get out of control super quickly. But I am going to get back to that. So the action files. Then you would move on to the next level, which is short-term files. These are your things like lesson plans, lesson plan masters, ideas for lessons, maybe things for special events that you do in your school, like beginning of the school year type things, conferences, stuff like that. So that stuff I would keep in a file that's near your desk, and then everything is labeled appropriately. Let's see here. So there's a couple ways you can use your file system for teaching. I have been keeping everything in files for each week. So my curriculum goes by weeks. And so I have the weekly letter, the weekly number, the weekly theme, the weekly Bible story. All of that is encompassed in one file folder. Now, another way that you could do that is you could have like your ABCD files, your 0, 1, 2, 3 files. You could also have your themes files. Maybe you have fall changes or spring, or maybe you have science themes that you're focusing on, or social studies themes that you're focusing on, and you can have them all individualized out. It just kind of depends on what your preference is. I want to be able to pull out one folder and be ready to go for the week. I'm actually currently in the middle of going through all the files in my room and bringing them together. So currently I have like a big, huge filing system that I'm trying to downsize, plus 2 boxes under my desk, plus a 2-drawer file cabinet under my desk. And I'm trying to get it all into that 2-drawer file cabinet. So this is a goal, and this goal is driving me to get rid of stuff. And so that's really good. So those are some ways. Another way that you could file things is by quarter, maybe by, let's see, what was the other thing I was thinking of that would be good for older grades? Maybe it's in my notes here. Oh, like sections of your curriculum. So that might be another thing that you could file things for. I also like to keep my files really broad versus super specific, as I'm talking about, like I'm doing it bi-weekly instead of like A, B, C, D, 1, 2, 3. So like I have a beginning of the year file, and in there is stuff for ice cream social, our back to school night, things that I need to copy off to be prepared for the beginning of the school year, like our fuzzy jar little notes. It's a reward system that we do with the kids. Our birthday things, because I fill all their birthday bags at the beginning of the school year so they're ready to go. So those are some things that like where I kind of do like a broad filing system instead of having all these itty bitty individual files for certain things. Okay, lastly, long-term files. These would be things like student samples of work that they're doing and that you want to show future classes so that they can kind of get an idea of what you're expecting for them to do. One suggestion I have for that is to take pictures and create a digital file for showing to the kids. Another way, if you really want to keep a hard copy, is to store those in like a bin or a box, but then keep it in a cupboard that's hard to access, because you don't want to keep that in your main workspace. That should be something that's stored away. So some more notes on papers, creating time to file. If you are going to have a basket on your desk of things to file, then you got to make time to file. Otherwise, it is for sure going to get out of control. So whether you're filing right away because you don't have a file basket, or you're filing once a week, once every other week, once every quarter, whatever works for you, but you have to set aside that time to keep up with that. Otherwise, it becomes a big problem. Now, you're probably thinking, I have a huge pile on my desk. What should I do with all that stuff? I haven't been keeping up. Okay, we've all been there. My biggest tip for that is that if you're going to sort papers, it's similar to some of my steps in doing an organizing project. So you're going to take a big chunk of papers that are all different kinds of things, and you're either on the floor or on a table, you're going to sort them out by category. So you're going to put your science papers about wind over here, and you're going to put your science papers about biology over here, and you're going to put your math papers about the number 1 over here, and the number 2, and the number 3, and the A, B, C, or your weekly filing system. However it is that you have started a filing system, then you're going to lay those out. If you haven't started a filing system, this is a good way to start one. Start sorting papers and seeing what types of files you come up with. Then you're going to take your files and put them in, the file folders and put them away. So you're either going to create a file folder for the stuff that you've just sorted, or you already have file folders created and you're just going to go put that stuff away. That is the easiest way that I have found to file stuff when you have a lot. And then at this time is also a good time to throw stuff away. Throw stuff away from past events. Throw stuff away. The other thing I think we keep a lot too is you've made X amount of copies of student worksheet that they're going to do, and then you have leftovers, and then we keep them for some reason. I don't know why, because what are you going to do next year? Next year, you're going to go to the copy machine and you're going to make a class set again. You're not going to be like, oh, I have 2 in my file folder. Maybe I'll just make. That would be ideal because then you wouldn't be wasting paper, but you can either use that for scratch paper or you can put it in the recycling. I am giving you permission to put those in the recycling bin. Okay, so let's see here. The other thing about that sorting the papers, it actually kind of becomes fun and also goes faster than you think it's going to. Let's see. All right, now we're going to move on to books. So I have been so overwhelmed with books in my classroom, which I am so thankful that I have so many books. But it has been a huge load to try to figure out what books to keep, how to sort them, So I'm going to show you guys my file system that I currently have. So I teach preschool. So up here in this cupboard is my book bins by theme. So for example, families and homes, fall changes, colors, life in winter, all of our themes that we go through the year, they're all labeled. And then I came up with this dot system. So I bought these colored dots, and so you can see the red dot on the fall changes one. So now when I'm in the month where I'm talking about fall changes, so that was this month, I have these bins down here on my reading cart, and this one has a red dot on it. So all the books that are in there have a red dot on the edge of it. So now when I put out multiple books for the month, my kids know where to put them. So I go, look at the dot on the side of your book. Which bin should it go in? So every month I go through all my books, and I've been downsizing them so that however many books I have, they all fit in a container and I can put the lid on it. And so that's kind of helping me make some decisions. I've been sharing some of the books I've been getting rid of with other teachers, donating some, and some I've actually had to toss because they're in pretty rough shape. Because so many of the kids love the books and they love them a lot. Okay, so that is my classroom organizing system for books. The other thing that you can do as far as sorting books is you can sort them by genre. You can sort them by reading levels. And so that's another way. I also would recommend these bins from the Dollar Tree. These are a good size for putting books in on a shelf. And also baskets are kind of fun. I feel like with the younger age set, that is the best way to put books out because the kids can easily put them away versus trying to just put them on a shelf like at a library. They have the best chance of getting back on the shelf and in something if they're in some type of a bin or a basket. And then, of course, try to label the basket in some way so that they can find where it should go. You can try to use the dot system. So those are my tips about books. The other thing that you can buy at the Dollar Tree is plastic cutting mats. I want to say it comes 2 or 3 to a pack. And then you can use those if you're going to line books up on a shelf and put the books on there and then use these cutting mats in between your books and label the side of the cutting mat with either a label maker or a marker so that things go back in their respective spots, like by reading levels or genres or things like that. So that was one thing that I wanted to say. Okay, let's talk about organizing everything else. So we're talking manipulatives, toys, art supplies, office supplies. We've kind of touched on a few different things. So I want you to keep in mind when you're organizing and building space and creating space and buying bins, you want to think about space availability. So if you have a large amount of things that you need to store, you're obviously going to want to use the largest amount of space that's available in that classroom. So your bigger, larger cupboards, collection of cupboards. So that's probably going to be for like your toys and manipulatives. Then if you have a small amount of things to organize, you're going to be putting those in a drawer or a smaller cupboard, right? It seems like common sense, but this is something that you really do need to think about sometimes. The other thing is, let's see here, the use of space. So you want to think about your use of space. So for example, by our sink area is where we keep all of our art supply items. That's not going to be your best place to store books, obviously. So think about that, your use of space. The kids play over here, so the toys are going to be over here. The quiet area is over here, so that's where I'm going to store the books, because that's where I'm going to pull them out. The messy place is over here, so that's where all the messy items are going to go. And then, lastly, safety. You want to think about that. Like, where are you storing things that are super heavy? You don't want them too up high where the kids are going to pull them down onto their heads, or sharp things. You don't want to keep those where they can be handy, maybe up in a higher cupboard, etc. These are things we really have to think about with early childhood, and most early childhood teachers are going to know this just because of Minnesota licensing. But lastly, about I'm just kind of throwing this out there. So like when we work with younger kids and we're doing science projects and things like that, we might get consumables such as toilet paper rolls or egg cartons and boxes and things like that so the kids can create. Love it. Super fun. Kids love this kind of stuff. It's free, right? But it can be hard to come by in the sense of you got to use up a lot of egg cartons to have enough egg cartons for your whole class. You got to use up enough toilet paper to have enough toilet paper rolls for your entire class. But you could collect those things at home if you have a spot at home where you could keep a bag and just toss in toilet paper rolls. But if you don't have a lot of space at school and you're trying to make everything look a little bit neater, maybe having a different way to collect those consumables. So like I said, collecting them at home or waiting till you're closer to the activity where you need them and then asking your parents, hey parents, help us out. We're doing this fun craft project. We need a bunch of toilet paper rolls, by Friday. So please bring them in by Friday. They love to help, and that's an easy thing that they can do to help. So that's just something that I've been trying to do better about because I definitely feel that way sometimes when I'm like, oh my gosh, I know we have these projects coming up. I don't want to have to go try to find all this. And so this way I'll just keep collecting it, but then it kind of takes up a lot of space in your room. So I wanted to share that. Let's see. We talked about that. So now I'm going to show you some of my fun favorite organizers and kind of give you a tour of my classroom. I'm also going to take a drink of water because I've been talking a lot. So, I bought these on Amazon. They're accordion files. What I like about them is they stand up on their own. The lid comes back and doesn't fly up in my face when I'm trying to look at the stuff in here. So I'm sure some of you buy some things on Teachers Pay Teachers. Love Teachers Pay Teachers, fun stuff, but how do you store it all? So like these are Cube Link letter cards. They've been printed, cut, laminated. I want them handy so then when I am coming up with my table activities for each week, I'm trying to do more purposeful play type, project-based learning where the kids can do learning about numbers and reviewing letters without having to do a worksheet. So I've really been loving these Teacher Pay Teachers things. And so what I did is all of my alphabet ones are in this blue accordion file. And everything that I printed, whether it's Play-Doh, letter cards, letter find things, like this one is for the geo boards and then they make the letters. And so these are all divided up in here and I keep it in my language arts cabinet. So I wanted to share this with you because I'm loving this and I literally just got these a week ago. I also bought a green one for my math one. So all of my math ones are in here. So this one has to do with counting apples. And then they put a little clip on it for, the correct number underneath the apple. So this is all my math ones. There's patterning ones in there, bear counter ones in there. So another thing that I love is these plastic zipper pouches. They're super, thick, so they're not gonna tear. And then some of my stuff, so these are some more cards, and these ones I got a long time ago. I think I got these out of mailbox. So this is toss and tally record sheet. So you take a penny and you flip it, and then they're supposed to make tally marks. So this is kept in here with some pennies and some dry erase markers. And this is all set to go in here, and they even have labels on them. And these sit in my math cabinet. So I had several of these types of things. So these 3 bins got replaced by these 3 zipper pouches. It takes up way less space. And then you could also keep these in here in a basket. And then that way the kids could even have like a free choice. Like if you have older kids and they finish with work early, you could have math boxes or innovative boxes or whatever you want to call them to make it fun. And then when they're finished with work, they go choose one of these to work on. And you've worked with them throughout the school year to kind of show them, okay, when you're done with work, one of the things you could do is toss and tally. This is how you do it. And then you show them how to do it. And then the next week you show them a new one, and the next week. And then pretty soon you've got like 6 or 7 or 8 learning things where they're getting some differentiation and things like that by doing these fun activities. Another thing I want to show you is these long narrow bins. I use these for my weekly worksheets. So each bin has a folder in it, 5 folders, Monday through Friday. I do print off whatever it is that I want to use from my curriculum, extra stuff that I have. Maybe I'll put in like plain paper that I want them to draw on, or one of my sheets from these folders. And I do all my weekly planning, and so then I fill Monday folder with everything we're going to do on Monday, Tuesday folder, everything we're going to do on Tuesday, etc. And so then I just pull this out each week, make sure it's ready. And then over here during lunch, when my kids are eating lunch, I'm changing out our table activities. We have 4 tables. And so I'll put out an activity at each table. So like during lunch or on Friday, during lunch, when the kids are eating lunch, I clean these out and put out the new activities for each day. So I have my weekly stuff and then I have my daily activities with all the supplies that they need. Because while I'm up there teaching Bible, someone comes in and then they set my tables up for me. So because I have this system, they know what to do. I don't have to tell them what to do. It's just a system that just happens. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit more about bins. I'm almost done. So like I told you, I love these bins. This is called the shoebox size bin. This is what I call it. I also like the sweater size bins. This is what I call this size. The flat long bins. Excuse me, I call those under the bed storage bins because I would use them to store things under the bed. But what I like about these bins is they fit really good in my cabinet. Also, they're clear. The lids are easy for the kids to open and close. And I do not like round containers because when you think about a round container, you're losing all that space around that container. When you use a rectangle container or a square container, for the most part, I mean, because this tapers up, so you're losing a little bit of space, but you're using way more than if you were using a round container. So that's something to think about too, is round containers are not always the best choice because even though they can be cute, like if you're gonna put those out on the shelf, that would be one thing, but the ones that you're storing in your cabinets, you wanna make sure you're utilizing that entire space. Okay, so I'm gonna show you a couple of things. I showed you my books. Those are in these top two cupboards. And then down here is toys. And you can see how having all bins with all white lids can really make everything look cohesive. Another thing that you can do is, let's say you have all these random bins. That's okay, use what you have. But if you have random bins, if you use the same type of tape and then use a Sharpie to write on it, that same color tape on each bin is gonna make a cohesive look for everything. So see how my cupboards are really deep? So back here, if you can see, I have more bins of toys. So I'm trying to utilize all that space that's available to me. Let's see. So this is also a toy cupboard. And then this cupboard is videos and books, and all of those books are going to get sorted and moved up with those books. I'm kind of working through a process right now. This is all just extra supplies. These are classroom games. This is a STEM Lego kit that we got from a STEM workshop that we went to. I'm still not exactly sure how I'm going to store that, but right now that's been the best way I could find. This is my math cabinet. Everything in here is math related. I also keep those math accordion files in here. Down here is my reading language arts, and I keep a reading language arts accordion file thing in here. Down on the bottom is theme related things. Back in this cupboard is hard to get to because my big TV is in front of it. This is all holiday and extra supplies and posters. And down here is also bulletin board stuff and extra supplies. So this is all stuff I never hardly ever have to access. So let's see, what else can I show you that might be beneficial to you? I have a reading cart or a learning cart. Everything I have on here is the stuff that I use for my word families, my alphabet tree, my calendar time, and I just use this cart a lot for those types of things, for all my learning stuff that I do during learning time, carpet time, whatever you want to call it. Over here is where we keep all of our art supplies because this is where the sink is. So, like down here is art smocks and paintbrushes and paint cups and things like that. And then up here is things that we use for extra supplies like our wipes and dishwashing soap for washing the cups, gloves, and also we keep our scissors up there because we can't let the little kids have access to scissors without us keeping an eye on them. This is my desk. I cleaned it out good for you. I'm not gonna lie. Okay, so this bag hanging down is actually what my camera stand was in. But I have all my office supplies in these bins in my desk, extra office supplies. The stuff I need to utilize a lot is in this little drawers. I also have this letter system for stuff I need to access, thank you card, notes, note cards, things like that. And this is my to be filed. I actually have stuff I need to file, believe it or not. These are my curriculum binders that I need to access quite regularly. Over here is where we keep a lot of our classroom supplies. So they used to be a bin where they kept all their own classroom supplies in, and now we do community supplies. So markers, crayons, and there's one for each table. So I have 4 bins of markers, 4 bins of crayons, 4 bins of colored pencils. So when we're doing stuff, I can put them out on the table. This is where I keep my weekly file system. So I could plan ahead up to a full month of lesson plan worksheets and activities in those. I have puzzles and some of my special teacher books. And over here, I have this whole counter area of storage, which is so great. So we have extra supplies, tissues, we have snacks, because we have to serve snack. The kids bring their own snack, but if they don't have something, we have to provide it per DHS. I have Play-Doh over there, construction paper. I'm going to try to show you. It's just my tables are in the way. Here you go, you're coming with me. So, down here, Play-Doh, extra coloring sheets. Down here is construction paper and extra types of crayons like glitter crayons and markers that are multicultural and stuff like that. This is more construction paper and clipboard. And then this is my birthday cupboard and my extra treasure chest prize cupboard. And that's really the end of the tour, you guys. I hope that you enjoyed this session. I hope that you got a lot out of it. If you have any questions or like you're struggling with something in your room, you want an idea, just email me at organizedbyletty@gmail.com. Also, I do offer virtual sessions. If you would like to set up a virtual session and have me help you with something that's, that you're struggling with or you're really wanting help with, I would love to help with that. So thanks for coming and happy organizing.